Good morning, everyone. Sorry I can't be with you today. I am in a meeting at 11 o'clock, well, a virtual meeting. So I have pre-recorded this video for you. It's our first lesson on data, specifically looking at time graphs and line graphs. So I'm going to go through a little bit of those and explain these to you and go through a couple of questions. Just in a short video for you. So, as you can see behind me, there is a time graph. We know it's a time graph or a line graph because on the x-axis, which is this one at the bottom, that measures time, whether that be in seconds or milliseconds, whether it be hours, days, months, or in this instance, it's measuring years. Okay. So I'm just going to put that on there, like so. This particular graph is looking at challenge 2. You can use this video to help you with challenge 1 and challenge 3, but I thought I'd focus this specifically on challenge 2 today because I'm running out of paper. It's my last one. And then I need to open the box for the next one. And it took me forever to draw this. So that's why I'm only doing 1 today and not 3. Anyway, the y-axis then, this is what you're actually measuring. So for challenge 2, this is measuring the mass of David. Okay, right, so David's mass starts at 1 year old, which is there. And then we're given data for 3 years old, 5 years old, and 7 years old. So I'm going to show you how we plot that data onto a graph. You'll of course have squared paper in your books, and that should help you when you're plotting. So when we're plotting graphs, we read the x-axis first and then the y-axis. So the age in the table that you can see in the book, I'll show that to you. That table there. Starts off at 1 year old and 12 kilograms. So we read from 0 across to 1, and then we plot up to 12, which is there. Now I know it's there because I've got 10 and 15 here, and 12 is closer to 10 than it is to 15. Then we have 3 years old, and that's 15 kilos. So from 0, we read across to 3, and then up to 15. And we put a little cross there. Next, we've got 5 years old, and he is 20 kilograms. So we put a little cross there, because we've read across to 5, and then up to 20. Next, at 7 years old, he is 25 kilograms. So we read up to 25 here. That's right, yeah. And we push across there. Now, of course, your graph will have to be bigger than that because it goes up to 17. I probably should have put 1, 3, 5, but I didn't. So you'll just have to live with that and try to do your own. Then what you need to do is you need to join them up with a ruler. Now for you on a flat surface with a normal sized piece of paper, this is going to be a lot easier than me on a vertical surface with a massive piece of paper. So you join those two up like that, then you join the next two up. So put that there. Board is moving backwards. And then we join those two up. Right, let's put that back so that we can see it. Okay, so what does this line tell us? Well, the quicker the line, or the sharper the incline of the line, so basically the more it points upwards, that shows the quickest increase. So if we were to plot at 8 years old, and he was 32 kilograms then, for example, he's not, I'm just giving you for an example here, you can see that this line between 7 and 8 is a lot sharper going up than any of the others. So we can tell just by looking, we don't have to do any calculating, we can just look and see that between 7 and 8 years old, his mass increased more than between 1 and 3, 3 and 5, 5 and 7. Now, we're not given data for how much he weighed at 2 years old, 4 years old and 6 years old. But we can use this graph to help us work that out. So if we read across to 2 and then up, and this point here is in theory how much mass David had at 2 years old. And then we read across to our y-axis, and we can see that that is approximately 13 or 14 kilograms. So I'm going to put 14. Okay. Then at 4 years old, we can do exactly the same. So it's there, and we read across. Well, that's in the middle between 15 and 20, so we would assume that that's 17 and a half. Okay, and you can do the same for 6 and for 8 and 10, etc., etc. Because if you look at the questions in Challenge 2, question 3, you will see that you have all of the even numbers there, and have to therefore work out using the line graph that you've drawn. Then it's asking you some other questions, and we can calculate using this graph as well. So if I know that his mass at 7 years old was 25 kilograms, so if I put this up here, so at 7 years old, 25 kilograms, and then at 8 years old, he was, what did I say, 32 kilograms. We can then work out the increase between 7 years old and 8 years old. So we've got 25 up to 32. We find the difference between them. You can either count on or subtract 32 from 25. And that gives us a difference of 7 kilograms. So how much did his mass increase between 7 years old and 8 years old? It increased by 7 kilograms. And for question 4 and question 5, it asks you to do that and work that out. Now, for challenge 1 and challenge 3, they're very, very similar to what I've just talked through here in challenge 2. You need to plot the graphs. It will help you. It will practice your ruler skills as well. Really, really important that you are able to accurately draw lines, straight lines using a ruler, making sure that you're using the squares in your book. Now, normally I say 1 number per square. However, if I move the board closer to the camera, I don't know whether you can see that, but I've drawn on pencil lines, which is where I've been plotting the numbers. So the numbers actually don't go in the squares, they go on the lines between the squares. So if I just put that in a little bit darker detail, so the squares will go down like that, and you'll write the number 1 there. The 0 goes around 4 squares, like that. And then the 5, there'll be a line going through the 5 because you'll write it on the line. Okay, a little bit different to bar charts where you would write in the square, but time graphs and line graphs are a little bit different to those. Okay, I suggest you plot and draw the 2 graphs. It's good practice using a ruler, reading graphs and then replotting them. If I say let's do just 2 graphs rather than all 3, you can do all 3 if you want to. But let's say 2 graphs as a minimum. You have to do the challenge 2 one. Challenge 3 is a little bit trickier than challenge 1. So if you want more of a challenge, go for that. If you want something a little bit simpler, go for challenge 1. And then you've got the questions to answer there. Although I'll be in a meeting, I will be able to answer Dojo messages. So send me a message if you do have any difficulty, and I'll try to answer, or I will answer in a video message as soon as I'm done. Right, have fun doing all that today. although I'm recording this on Monday. And if you've got any questions, send me a message. Bye for now.